Mom. After more than 6 months of complete silence, my daughter Emily finally called. And it was already past 8 p.m. It's unusual for Emily, who has her own family, to call at such an hour. I instantly sensed that something serious must have happened. Emily? What's going on? Why are you calling at this hour? What happened? At first, Emily didn't respond. I could only hear a faint, hissing sound on the other end of the line. Mom. Emily finally spoke in a weak, strained voice. Emily. What's wrong? Are you okay? Mom, help me. Sensing an emergency, I pressed the speakerphone button. My husband, John, immediately came to my side, straining to listen. Emily, pull yourself together. What happened? I'm suffering. I haven't eaten anything. I can't go on. What do you mean you haven't eaten? What's going on? They won't give me any food, my mother-in-law and her family, nothing. Images of Emily crawling on the floor, desperately reaching out for help, flashed through my mind. Emily's in danger. John shouted, grabbing the car keys and heading for the door. I'm coming to get you right now. I yelled into the phone, then hurriedly followed my husband. My name is Susan, and I'm 70 years old. Currently, my husband and I run a sushi restaurant together. John trained at a famous sushi restaurant when he was young, earning a reputation for his skills. We met through a family introduction and got married, after which John opened his own restaurant. John's skills, combined with his charming personality and straightforward manner, have won us many regular customers. I've been helping at the restaurant for almost 30 years now, but lately, I've been feeling my age. Even a little movement causes pain in my back. John has suggested hiring some help, but I've been reluctant due to the cost and have continued to work as long as I can. Sometimes, John jokes, it would be nice if she were here to help us now. By she, he means our only daughter, Emily. She's already independent with her own family, so we can't ask her to come back and help with the restaurant. Emily currently lives an hour away by car in the next town with her husband, Mike, their son, Luke, and Mike's mother, Nancy. Recently, Mike's sister, Sarah, also moved in. I don't know the details, but I've heard that Sarah moved back home after a divorce. I had hoped that Emily would help out at our restaurant after graduating from college, but she said, I want to see more of the world. And left home. After that, she got a job at a major department store and started working in the women's clothing section. Despite being new to the workforce, Emily quickly won over customers with her charm and bright personality. It was at the same department store that she met her husband, Mike. Mike worked in the high-end sales department, catering to wealthy clients, and was considered a star employee. When Emily first introduced Mike to us, I had a slight worry. Is it really okay to marry such a perfect man? Mike was indeed handsome and skilled at winning over women, with many customers coming to the store just to see him. Even so, Emily assured me with a confident smile, don't worry, Mom. I trust him. Emily married Mike, quit her job at the department store, and became a dedicated housewife. The following year, their son Luke was born, bringing us the joy of a grandchild and easing my worries. Looks like they're managing well after all. The couple lived in an apartment with their son for a while, but 5 years ago, after Mike's father passed away, they moved into Mike's family home to be with his elderly mother. Emily would call home occasionally, but lately, she has been lamenting that Mike is rarely at home. Mike stayed over at a coworker's apartment again last night because he was working late. This has been happening a lot lately. Even on weekends. He claims he has business golf outings and isn't home. Even so, Emily would laugh over the phone, saying, I guess that's just part of being a professional. One day, I called Emily after a long while. Luke's birthday is coming up soon, right? Do you have any plans during the day? Nothing specific during the day, but why do you ask? That's perfect. Our restaurant is closed that day, so how about the three of us, Luke, you, and me, go somewhere fun? Like an amusement park or an aquarium, somewhere Luke would enjoy. That sounds great. Recently, Mike has been so busy with work that he hardly comes home. So Luke hasn't been able to go out much and is getting bored. Emily responded with excitement over the phone, but As Luke's birthday approached, Emily called and said, "I'm really sorry, Mom, but a lot of plans came up since then, and we can't go out with you." "I'm really sorry. What do you mean by plans? What happened?" "The kids' club decided to throw a birthday party for Luke. So we can't go that day." "A kids' club? I guess you can't turn that down." I felt a bit disappointed but quickly switched gears. "Well, it doesn't have to be on Luke's birthday. Let me know when you have a free day. And we can plan something then." "I'm really sorry, Mom, but we won't be able to go anywhere for a while. Next week is a nature camp with the kids' club, and the week after that, swimming lessons start. It's just one thing after another. Kids these days sure are busy. It's a shame, but I guess we'll have to let it go." I was really looking forward to seeing my grandson again, so my disappointment was significant. I asked one of our regular customers who is a parent for advice on what games kids like these days and sent one of those games to Luke. "Mom, the present arrived." "Thank you." Emily called to thank me. But there was something off about my daughter's voice, something I couldn't quite place. Maybe it's a mother's intuition, but Emily, usually so bright and cheerful, sounded unusually subdued that day. "What's wrong? You sound tired today." "Nothing's wrong. I'm just fine as usual." "Are you sure?" "As long as you're okay. Thanks for the game, by the way." "About that. I don't really know what kids like these days, so I sent something that was recommended to me." "Did Luke like it?" "Of course. He said, 'Grandma's the best,' and he loved it." For some reason, Emily seemed eager to end the call quickly. Almost like she didn't want to prolong our conversation. "Is everything going well with you guys? Why do you ask?" "We're doing fine. Don't worry about us. Didn't you mention that Mike has been coming home late recently? Has anything changed since then?" "You're such a worrywart, don't worry about it. Just forget about that. Besides, phone calls aren't free. And I'm sure you're busy with the restaurant." "Wait a minute. It's not about me right now, it's about you." But before I could finish, Emily hung up the phone. I was just trying to check in, but Emily seemed to avoid my questions and abruptly ended the call. It was as if she didn't want me to dig into her family affairs. It doesn't seem like a simple matter. I felt uneasy. After the restaurant closed, it was our routine for John and me to relax in the quiet living room, having a drink and unwinding from the day. That night, we were relaxing as usual, reflecting on the day's events. About Emily, something seems off. She sounds tired or down. I can't quite tell. You call her from time to time, right? I called her today, but she abruptly ended the call. Are you saying she's trying to keep you at a distance? It's not that she's pushing me away, I think she just doesn't want to worry me. It's a mother's intuition. But I feel like Emily is hiding something from me. John folded his arms and remained silent for a while, then said, "Could it be related to that thing?" "What thing?" After hesitating for a moment, John decided to speak. "One of our regular customers mentioned something about Mike that concerned me." "What about Mike?" "One of our regulars said they saw Mike coming out of a bar with a woman who wasn't Emily." "No way. Mike would never do something like that. The woman wasn't young, but she was very beautiful. And she was dressed in flashy, expensive-looking designer clothes. It must have been someone who just looked like him," I said, trying to defend Mike. Or rather, it was my motherly instinct trying to protect Emily's marriage from any cracks. Of course, the regular didn't get a good look. They just thought the man looked like Mike. I didn't want to take the regular's witness for what it was. But I had heard that Mike had been coming home late and spending more time away even on weekends. Maybe Mike was seeing someone else. Without concrete information, my mind started to imagine the worst. I'm worried about Emily. She never complains. If she knows about this and is suffering in silence, don't think the worst. I'll do what I can. There's a lawyer among our regulars. I'll talk to them. After that, I was so preoccupied with thoughts of Emily that I accidentally broke dishes while washing them. Are you okay? You look tired. I kept trying to call Emily, but she rarely answered. Sometimes, she'd give me a brief update, saying, "I'm doing fine," but her responses were always very brief. Whenever I tried to delve deeper into family matters, she would laugh it off and quickly end the call. Her voice over the phone sounded weaker and more lifeless each time. Remembering Emily's bright, cheerful smile from before her marriage, I was overwhelmed by growing anxiety to tears. About 6 months later, Emily, who had completely stopped contacting me, suddenly called. And it was already past 8 p.m. It's unusual for Emily, who has her own family, to call at such an hour. I instantly sensed that something serious must have happened. "Emily? What's going on? Why are you calling at this hour? What happened?" Emily didn't respond. I could only hear a faint, hissing sound on the other end of the line. Even so, I was certain it was Emily holding the phone. "Is there anyone around? Are you alone there?" From the absence of background noise, I assumed she was alone. "Mom." Emily finally spoke in a weak, strained voice. "Emily. What's wrong? Are you okay? Mom, help me." Realizing the gravity of the situation, I pressed the speakerphone button. John immediately came to my side, straining to listen. "Emily, pull yourself together. What happened? Tell me. I'm suffering. I haven't eaten. I can't go on." "What do you mean you haven't eaten?" "They won't give me any food, my mother-in-law and her family, nothing." Images of Emily crawling on the floor, desperately reaching out for help, flashed through my mind. "Emily's in danger," John shouted, grabbing the car keys and heading for the door. "I'm coming to get you right now." I yelled into the phone, then hurriedly followed my husband. We were silent during the drive. John gripped the steering wheel tightly, his brows furrowed and veins bulging on his forehead. He was filled with an indescribable fear and anger over the possibility that our precious daughter might be suffering unjustly. Looking in the mirror, I was sure I had the same expression as John. Holding back my tears and closing my eyes, I could see the innocent, childlike smile of young Emily. Remembering her as a pure-hearted girl who knew nothing of the world's evils, reaching out to John and me with her small hands to share happiness, made my chest tighten with frustration. Emily is asking for help. Thinking of that, I felt ashamed that we hadn't noticed her suffering sooner. From her voice on the phone, it was clear that Emily was very weak, even without seeing her in person. It was hard to believe that Emily, who had always been the epitome of energy and joy, was now pleading for help in such a weak voice. Looking out the window at the dark streets, I thought, this must be a dream, just a bad dream. As we drove through a quiet residential area, the lights spilling from each house seemed to carry the laughter of families. And I felt a renewed pang of sadness, thinking that should be Emily's and our reality. Though it would usually take an hour during the day, the roads were relatively clear since rush hour had passed. And we quickly arrived at Emily's house. "Are you okay? I can handle this alone if you want." John's kind words showed his concern, but this was a family matter. No matter what awaited us, I was determined, we will save Emily with our own hands. When I rang the doorbell, a carefree voice responded from inside after a brief pause. "Hello? Who's there at this hour?" In stark contrast to Emily's urgent phone call, Mike's relaxed and casual voice left us bewildered. "This is Susan, Emily's mother." When I identified myself, Mike fell silent, then slowly replied, Is there something wrong?" He opened the door slightly and peeked out at us. "I'm sorry for the late hour, Mike. But this is urgent." John wedged his foot in the door's crack and pushed it open forcefully. "What are you doing, John?" "We're coming in." We barged into the house with a resolute attitude. Standing in front of a narrow, dark room at the end of the hallway, I said, "Emily is in here, isn't she?" I can't explain why. But I was certain she was in that room, calling for us. "This is too much. Even if you're her parents, I'll call the police." "That would be perfect. The police should witness this." John, undeterred, forcefully slid open the door. Inside, Emily lay on the floor like a discarded rag. It took a few seconds for my brain to register that the gaunt, unrecognizable figure was our daughter. "Emily. Oh, what has happened to you?" We rushed to her, lifting her frail body. "Mom, help me. I'm suffering. I can't go on." Emily managed to say this through labored and interrupted breaths. It was clear that she was semi-conscious, her speech slurred, and she was suffering from dehydration. "What are you people trying to do? You need to leave immediately." Mike tried to dismiss us like we were intruders, but his voice lacked conviction. He seemed frightened, his eyes darting around and his body trembling. "Mike. Get some water, now." I can't do that. Stop arguing and get it now." My fierce tone made Mike rush to the kitchen, returning quickly with a bottle of water. I grabbed it, opened the cap, and gave it to Emily. "Here, Emily. Drink this." Hearing the commotion, Nancy and Sarah also appeared. "What is all this noise about? It's so loud I can't hear the TV. We need answers." John, eyes narrowed with anger, confronted Mike, who dropped to his knees in a panic. "I'm so sorry." Mike began explaining how things had come to this, and it was beyond anything we could have imagined. After Emily and Mike moved in with his mother, Nancy, things were fine at first. But at some point, Mike started coming home late, and Nancy's attitude toward Emily grew cold. One day, when Emily was worried about Mike coming home late, she consulted Nancy. But instead of addressing her concerns, Nancy blamed Emily for Mike's late returns. Emily had no idea why she was being blamed, but Nancy told her, "It's because you haven't gotten your figure back after giving birth to Luke." Since then, Nancy started pushing all the household chores onto Emily and even imposed strict dietary restrictions on her. Despite this, Emily tried to keep her spirits up and handle the unreasonable demands, but Nancy didn't like that. The harassment escalated, and Nancy began controlling all of Emily's finances under the pretext of preventing her from buying snacks. To make matters worse, Mike's sister, Sarah, who had moved back home after a divorce, joined in, finding it entertaining. Nancy would have Sarah monitor Emily whenever she couldn't. The hardest part for Emily was being denied the chance to care for her own son, Luke. Even though they lived under the same roof, not being able to raise the child she had given birth to was incredibly painful and heartbreaking. Nancy unilaterally prohibited Emily from seeing Luke and had Sarah stop her if she even tried to approach his room. While Emily was forced to clean the bathroom or the toilet as punishment, Nancy spent fun times with Luke. That's all I know. With those words, Mike collapsed to his knees, defeated. "How dare you speak about our family's shame so easily? Yes, I can't believe you'd blab about such nonsense to strangers. You've really become a coward, brother. But that's not all, is it? There's more you're hiding, isn't there?" Mike looked up with a startled "huh," and a look of unease appeared on his face. Just then, we heard a taxi stop outside, and someone got out. "Looks like they've arrived." Mike, Nancy, and Sarah looked confused, not understanding the situation. Soon, a tall gentleman in his 50s appeared, and Mike's face turned pale. "It seems you know this man, don't you?" Mike didn't respond, but it was clear he understood there was no escaping the situation. He avoided looking at us, seemingly waiting for time to pass. "Good evening. My name is Greg. This is the first time I'm meeting the family in person, isn't it?" Greg looked at Mike, Nancy, and Sarah. Greg had once been a famous actor, known for his roles in movies and TV dramas, but as he aged, his popularity waned, leaving him with just his reputation. "Why is Greg here?" Nancy asked with a strained smile and a shaky voice. Her anxiety was evident to anyone. "I asked Greg to come. I contacted a lawyer friend before coming here and asked him to bring Greg as well. What kind of relationship do we have with Greg?" Nancy tried to feign ignorance, but I smiled knowingly. "Don't pretend you know nothing. You must have an idea why Greg is here." At that moment, our lawyer, Robert, arrived. "Sorry for the delay. I was organizing some documents for another case and took a bit longer." With Robert's arrival, all three of them fell silent. In fact, I've been investigating Mike's activities for the past 6 months at Susan's request. As it turns out, Mike has been frequently meeting a woman. This woman is a wealthy client he handles at the department store. While investigating her, We uncovered even more shocking facts. The woman in question is my wife, Lily. Greg added in a calm voice. When Lily asked me for a divorce, I was surprised but also thought, I see. She had been sneaking out often. Thanks to Robert. I understood everything. I wanted to hear directly from Mike about this, which is why I'm here. Mike stood up slowly, his voice weak as he began to confess everything. Like Robert mentioned, Lily and I met as a client and salesperson at the department store. Over the years, our relationship deepened. Initially, I saw it as just an affair, but when Lily got pregnant, we couldn't turn back. We planned to divorce our spouses and remarry. I'm deeply sorry. Mike knelt at Greg's feet, apologizing deeply. When I was a popular actor, Lily showered me with smiles, but as my career declined, she turned away. Meeting someone like you must have been irresistible for her. She's always wanted to have everything she desires. Greg chuckled weakly. Although Mike wanted a divorce from Emily, he couldn't easily ask because of the risk of alimony due to his affair. So he turned to his mother, Nancy, for help. At first, Nancy opposed her son's divorce, saying it would look bad, but when she found out the other woman was wealthy, she changed her attitude and actively supported it. Nancy thought that if Emily initiated the divorce instead of Mike, they wouldn't have to pay alimony. So she constantly harassed Emily, making life so unbearable that Emily would want to leave on her own. I believed in you. Despite her dizziness, Emily stood up on her own 2 feet, and the frustration of being deceived by her in-laws surged up, causing her to cry out loudly. I believed that if I lost weight, you would come back to me. That's why I endured all the unreasonable demands from Nancy and Sarah. But it was all just a plot to drive me out. It's okay, now. You did nothing wrong. You don't have to force yourself anymore. I hugged my daughter tightly. It's true that I wanted to divorce Emily. But I never thought my mom and Sarah would treat her so horribly. Even I am shocked. Wait a minute. I was only helping you to get Emily out of the house for your sake. It's your fault for having an affair in the first place. Exactly. You've been turning a blind eye to what we've been doing this whole time, Mike. Don't act like you didn't know. As the 3 of them started blaming each other, I was left speechless, while Emily trembled and shouted, "Stop it already. If you want me out of this house so badly, then I'll leave." Well, that would be helpful. Don't be happy about it, Nancy. I'll never forgive you. Once I divorce Mike, I'll demand a hefty alimony from you. With that, Emily yelled, "Luke. Where are you? Come down here, we're going to live with Grandma and Grandpa from now on." Okay, I'm coming. Luke ran down the stairs from his room and hugged Emily. After that, Mike's affair with a client was exposed, and he was dismissed from the company for severely damaging the company's image. True to her word, Emily filed for divorce and demanded a large alimony from Mike. Having lost his job and being forced to pay alimony, Mike got into a huge argument with Nancy and Sarah, which ended with him having to sell their house. Emily's anger didn't stop there, she also demanded substantial compensation from Nancy and Sarah for the emotional and physical abuse she had endured. Despite the constant harassment, Emily had kept a detailed record of her experiences, which helped her case in court. Back at home, Emily gradually recovered physically and mentally, returning to her former cheerful self. There were still some issues with Mike and his family, but with the help of the skilled lawyer Robert, everything was resolved. Incidentally, I heard a rumor that Mike and Lily did have a child. After losing his job and home, Mike relied on Lily's financial support, but he lost the will to work and became increasingly disheveled. Moreover, with the elderly Nancy and the nagging Sarah tagging along, it became unbearable for the well-bred Lily, who eventually left with her child. I don't know what happened to them after Lily left, nor do I want to know. Well then, it's time for me to get back to work. With renewed determination, Emily began helping at the restaurant in place of me with my aching back. Emily, who had experience in customer service at a major department store, quickly became popular. And the restaurant soon had long lines of customers. With our new star employee, I have no regrets. I stopped working at the restaurant and spent my free time looking after Luke. Luke, who is about to enter middle school, declared at his elementary school graduation, "I want to be a cool sushi chef like Grandpa." Which brought John and me to tears. We are now eagerly looking forward to Luke's future.